okay to outgrow friendships? Yes.
Outgrowing is outgrowing. That means that you got to limit your time.
I ended a friendship of about 17, 18 years recently.
You're not a bad person for outgrowing friendships.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Voice and Value. If y'all been rocking with me for a while, then you already know I'm always talking about healing, about mending relationships, rebuilding trust, and doing the inner work so we can love better and live freer. But this video is a little different because today we're not talking about how to fix a broken bond. We're talking about how to release one.
The people that you are friends with when you are 20 and you are super close with, it's very rare. It's a great thing if you can maintain that level of friendship as you guys grow older. But just like in any relationship, we learn, we grow, we change, and many times we can feel guilt about separating ourselves from that friendship. As people change that are in your life, regardless of what level of friendship that they are, you have to be able to adjust too so that you can maintain your boundary space, maintain your level of who you are and what you represent, and keep on moving from there. It is okay to downgrade a friendship or even upgrade a friendship based on what somebody is showing you, because it's not only about them picking you as a friend, it is about you choosing who you want to have in your life at that level.
When you outgrowing your friends, when you outgrowing your family, you got to limit your time. Once you have made that decision that I know that I'm on some shit they not on, now you got to stop being around them as much. Sometimes there's people in your house or there's people in your neighborhood, there's people that you grew up with and you've known them your entire life. Sometimes you have to limit your access with them people because they not on what you on no more. And all they want to do is to continue to do what they've been doing. You have to limit your access to people who don't want the things that you want because they're going to pull you back in.
And I'm telling you all this because sometimes you have to cut the fat. And what I mean by cut the fat is cut the negativity in your life. And this particular person was a constant complainer. And I believe in venting and releasing whatever you need to release and getting things off your shoulder. But if you're not willing to have man in the mirror moments with yourself, where you realize that you're the common denominator of a lot of situations within your life, I can't participate in those conversations anymore.
Remember, you're evolving, and some people you might meet and you might connect with, and there are some people that y'all are just not on the same page anymore. Y'all are different places in y'all lives, and that's okay. If y'all outgrow each other and stop being friends, that is fine as well too. Some people are for seasons. Some people are not meant to go into each and every season with you. So don't be surprised if you and that friend that have been friends for years suddenly not see eye to eye anymore. Y'all see things differently and can't find a way to come back and align.
We're talking about what it means to walk away from a friendship that no longer serves our peace, even if there's love there. Sometimes the most healing thing you can do is to let go. So if you've ever struggled with guilt around outgrowing someone, especially the ones we swore we'd never let go of, or even if you felt torn between loyalty and self-preservation, this conversation's for you. Today's topic is outgrowing friendships. We've been taught to value loyalty so much that sometimes we don't even realize when it's destroying our peace. So let's talk about that. I want to ask you something first. Have you ever stayed in a friendship way past its expiration date just because you've been friends since your school days? Or maybe y'all grew up together. You know, your mama knows her mama. The two of you went through some trauma bonding during a rough season in life. We've all had them at some point in our life. But see, it's that kind of history that makes walking away feel like betrayal, even when staying is actually hurting you. See, sometimes we confuse loyalty with obligation. We believe we owe people our presence because of the time that we've shared with them, not because of shared growth. But if you really think about it, Just because someone knew you, it doesn't mean that they know you now. People evolve, or at least they're supposed to. But when one person in the friendship is changing and the other one isn't, or even worse, they resent your growth, that loyalty can turn into a trap, a sort of a guilt trip, actually. A one sided friendship based on support, and it's more about the benefits that you bring to the table, not the other way around, and it's certainly not mutual. Now, let's talk about that whole ride or die culture. It's heavy in our community. If you know, you know. Loyalty is almost romanticized, if that makes sense. You're expected to ride for your people no matter what they do, how they treat you, or how they show up in your life, or don't. But let me tell you something. Ride or die makes no room for boundaries. And there's no room for accountability either, because you're expected to side with them no matter how irrational or irresponsible they start performing in life. If I'm always the one riding and you're always the one crashing a car, how long am I supposed to keep putting my safety on the line? Some folks only come around when they're in crisis, but they disappear the moment you need support. Others constantly bring drama or gossip that you've long since outgrown. And every time you try to steer the conversation in a different or healthy direction, they either minimize it or they mock you for thinking you're better than them. So why do we stay? Well, I think it's because we've been conditioned to believe that ending a friendship is dramatic or petty, and we don't want to get labeled as a fake friend. In reality, though, letting go can be one of the most mature and self-honoring things you can do in life. Outgrowing people can feel lonely, especially if that friend was there for you at your lowest point in life. Maybe they helped you raise your kids, gave you a place to stay, or talked you through that terrible and emotionally painful breakup. You feel like cutting them off erases all the good they did. But guess what? Growth doesn't erase gratitude. You can honor what someone meant to you then and still recognize that they no longer serve your life now. Let me tell you a true story. I had this friend. Let's call him James. James and I have been friends for over 15 years. We went through everything together. I'm talking heartbreaks, job losses, family drama, you name it. But as I started doing my inner work, self-reflection, healing, James stayed back in those same old toxic cycles. Every conversation became so draining. Every phone call was an hour of him venting with no accountability. And when I started setting boundaries, he called me different. Said I was acting brand new. And to be honest, he was right. I was different. But that wasn't a bad thing. It was just bad for James and our longtime friendship. Eventually, I had to love him from afar. And I'm not going to lie, it hurt. I questioned myself at first because I did feel disloyal. But over time, peace replaced that guilt, and honey, let me tell you, it felt good. I realized I was starting to make space for people who were aligned with my present, not just my past anymore. I didn't hold any grudges against James. He and I shared a long friendship together until we didn't. If you're listening to this and wondering if you've outgrown a friendship, I can give you a few signs to pay attention to. The first one is you feel drained, not energized after talking to them. That one's a clear sign. And next, they make these passive aggressive comments about your growth or your goals. You catch the shade, but you're so committed to being friends to the end that you've just been letting it slide. And next, you're always the one reaching out. checking in or initiating the plans. Friendship is like love. It's only good when it's mutual. Next, they dismiss your boundaries or they don't take your life seriously. Yeah, that one's a big no-no. Don't let that one slide. And finally, you find yourself shrinking or code switching just to maintain the peace. You know, being an inauthentic version of yourself because they're intimidated by your growth or your elevation in life. Listen, friendship should be a safe space, a sort of sanctuary, if you will. If you can relate to at least two of the signs I just mentioned, there's a pretty good chance that you're caged in your current friendship. But let's flip it now. Let's talk about what healthy loyalty looks like. Loyalty can be beautiful when it's healthy, when it's mutual, and when it allows room for honesty and to evolve and grow. A healthy friend will check you. Without belittling you or being disrespectful, they give you room to grow, even if that growth means that the friendship takes on a different form. They celebrate your wins and grieve your losses as if it were their own. And healthy loyalty respects space too. It supports wellness and it flows both ways. So, to anyone struggling with the guilt of letting go, hear me when I say this. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to you just because y'all share memories. That's not loyalty. That's more like emotional debt. And the interest on that kind of debt is going to bankrupt you. It's going to cost you your peace. Give yourself permission to evolve, even if it means some folks can't come with you. Real love, real friendship won't fight your growth. It'll honor it. So let's normalize outgrowing, not as a failure, but as a form of freedom. You have a right to change and a right to choose who gets to witness that change up close. You know, before we wrap up, I want to touch on something that really connects to this whole conversation. And that's the recovery principle of people, places, and things. If you've ever been in or around a 12-step program, whether it's for substance abuse, codependency, or even emotional recovery, then you've probably heard the phrase, you have to change the people, places, and things around you. And what's the first thing they always start with? People. And why is that? Because people are the biggest influence on your behavior, your mindset, your energy, and your identity. See, we like to think we're strong enough to hold on to those same friendships, to those same circles, and that everything would just magically change. But healing isn't just about what you do, it's about what and who you surround yourself with. You can't grow roots in toxic soil. You can't build a new life around old habits or old company. The people we spend time with are either reinforcing our dysfunction or supporting our healing. Period. And that's why recovery programs emphasize people first. Because if you don't distance yourself from the ones who will enable your pain, distract your focus, or pull you back into survival mode, you'll relapse. Not just into addiction, but into old patterns, old identities, and old versions of yourself that you already fought to outgrow. That applies to more than drugs and alcohol. That also applies to people who normalize chaos. People who downplay your boundaries. Or people who guilt trip you for saying no. People who need you broken to feel whole themselves. So when we talk about outgrowing friendships, this isn't just about emotional health. It's also spiritual preservation. Your healing has to come before their comfort. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Your healing has to come before anyone's comfort. That's why people comes first. No matter how strong your intentions are, Your environment, especially your relationships, will either water your growth or poison it. So if you're doing the work but you're feeling stuck, take inventory. Who's still sitting front row in your life, and do they deserve that seat? Because, honey, just like recovery, growth requires choices. And sometimes the first choice is walking away from the very people you once thought you couldn't live without. Let them go. And watch how far you begin to soar.
I had a friend who was very much, I considered like a sister. She's probably the only adult friendship I've had where I've literally fallen out with, like, ever completely.
Yeah.
Which is really crazy because we were like family, and that's very, very hard. It was like a messy divorce. It was really, really weird. But the thing is, and then, you know, we posted about this the other day, like, somebody's not calling you because they owe you an apology.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting because, to your point, it's like, I can look at this person and say, this person was a good friend to me, but then I can also look at the ways and be like, they weren't a good friend to me, but also still have compassion for the fact that, like, I actually don't think that you intended to hurt me,
Right.
but I actually know so much about you that I have compassion for the way that you don't even see yourself operating in this life.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.